obviously we posted a couple things on our story, and we had that awesome video by Nora that showed you guys some of what Haleigh can do on the court, which is pretty insane and impressive. But I wanted to give you guys a little more background on her in case you don't know a ton about her as a player. Haleigh's from Colorado. That's where she is right now. She's a couple time zones behind us. She was a very decorated player in high school, one of the best player in the state, won the Gatorade Player of the Year for 2 years in a row, which is really hard to do, to be the best player in the state your junior and your senior year, and beat out all those seniors who probably weren't happy about it. You deserved it. She went on to Penn State, and her freshman year in 2014, they won a national title. Pretty cool way to start your college career. And she was a huge impact player for them for all 4 years, consistently had some of the highest hitting percentages in the NCAA, which we'll talk about a little bit later, and was also a huge block. It's one of the best middles in the country. So a first-team All-American. And she went on, I guess, right after your senior year, right? You went to Italy that January. So she graduated early from Penn State, and went over to play in the A2, which was the league that I was playing in at the time. So before we started Northeast, Haleigh and I got to play against each other for the last match of our regular season. And then a cool kind of like fun fact is our worlds kind of collide in a few ways. So Haleigh then went on to play for the team that I was on when they got promoted to the A1. And when we came back to Connecticut, Haleigh went to play on my old team in the best league in the world, which is awesome. And then signed again in Italy next year with Busto, one of the best teams in Italy. That season just got cut a little bit short, but they were crushing it up until then. They were second in the league. So she's playing on one of the best teams in the world. And from an international standpoint, Haleigh is she's a part of Team USA, which is a huge accomplishment for such a young player, and a big future of USA Volleyball in the middle. And last year at the Volleyball Nations League, which I know some of you guys watched, and we were watching those games religiously, so we saw a lot of those highlights live. But Haleigh was a huge impact player for the U.S. and was named the best blocker in the entire tournament. This is with like all the best teams in the world. So pretty amazing. And helped the U.S. qualify for the 2020, now hopefully 2021 Olympics. And fingers crossed that she's on that roster. She's definitely in the mix for that. So super excited to have you on. She's a big future of volleyball in the country here. And excited to have a middle on as well. I know a bunch of our middles are pumped here for a year. I think we've now represented all the positions. So welcome, Haleigh. We're super, super excited.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much for having me. I'm so excited. Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. The energy on this little chat was great. People were talking about all these new sports you guys are making. Such like good, happy vibes. I'm so here for it. So thank you so much for having me. I'm loving the energy here. I'm really excited to chat. I'm excited that I'm one of the few middles or only middle you guys have had. Got to represent for the middle. So I'm so excited. Thank you guys so much for having me.
No problem. Thank you for taking the time to come out and speak with us. We really do promote a positive culture in our club, and I'm happy that you can see that just from that small interaction. And we have had almost every position represented, and we finally completed today with you, Haleigh. And the questions, funny enough, every week have come from the position that our guest plays. So today you're going to get a lot of questions from our middles who I think share the same enthusiasm that you do playing the position. They really love it, and it's apparent by the way that you play it that you are in love with your position. So to get this started, I'm going to ask that first question. I know quarantine has definitely thrown a wrench into everyone's world. For instance, Kat mentioned your season got cut short and you guys were tremendously successful. Despite those interruptions, just want to know, what are some things that you are grateful for despite the fact that our world is a little bit interrupted?
Yeah, first of all, I love this question. Last summer, I really started approaching life, volleyball, everything kind of with an attitude of gratitude. Like I really was just so thankful for all the little things in my life. Like last year, one of the few things that I wrote down were like my legs. Like it was so bizarre. I was sitting on the bus and we were going to a VNL game. And I was like, if I didn't have these legs, these strong legs that help me walk and jump and run and dance and party, like I wouldn't even be able to be doing what I'm doing. So I was so grateful in that moment for my legs. And I know it sounds ridiculous, but some people that, like we had a soccer player at Penn State who was a #1 recruit and he got into a snowboarding accident, was paralyzed from the waist down. And like now he's an Olympic athlete, like he's a stud. But like he lost his legs, and like he doesn't always, like he is still grateful for his process and his own things and stuff. But in that moment, I was really grateful for my legs. So sometimes it's my leg. Recently, I've been grateful for my family and for having a roof over my head. Like there are some people that are stranded overseas and got stuck in their foreign countries and don't really have a place to go or a place to stay. So I'm really grateful for a family that I could come back to and a safe and warm place to stay. I'm grateful that I have the ability to work out still. Like I have a workout bench, and it's like this old janky 1980s workout bench where they got to spin the weights on. It's super old school, but it still helps me work out. And so I'm grateful for that old school Venice Beach style workout equipment.
Nice.
And it's just like the little things in my life right now that I'm really grateful for, and my family, and like being surrounded by good vibes. Like I love being home because it's all good energy. So yeah, little attitude of gratitude. Thank you for asking that question. I'm so happy that got asked.
No problem. I think it resonates well with a lot of our players because over the last few weeks, we've been having a visualization coach work with us. And one of the first things he would always mention is just think about what you're grateful for. And he would always say your body. So it's uncanny that you mentioned a part of your body right off the bat. So ladies, gentlemen who are here, actually be thankful, because these bodies that we've been given help us perform all the tasks that we're engaged in, whether it be volleyball or otherwise. All right.
For sure.
We're going to move on to our first athlete question. I forgot to mention this before we got started. If you're comfortable, I would love for you to put your camera on so Haleigh can see you when you ask your question. We could have that kind of interaction. Once again, if you're comfortable. So our first question is going to be asked by Ava. She is new to our club and a huge middle. She has some blocking skills out here. So I think it's appropriate that we start off with Ava.
Hi. So I just wanted to know like what your best advice is like for blocking and how you're able to like read the hitters on the other team.
Yes. Ava, great question. Thank you so much for asking that. First of all, middle gang. Let's
go.
Yes. Secondly, that's a great question. And honestly, I have always kind of struggled on the blocking side of my game. So I've always been a very offensive middle. I think I've been really good at finding ways to score, and my blocking is a skill that I have lacked in a little bit. But since joining the USA Gym and going professional and playing professionally, I've really grown as a middle blocker. And the way that I've done that is by really emphasizing read blocking. And it's such an underwhelming answer. Like when you ask, how can I be a better middle blocker? How can I get more stuffs? How can I read the hitters better? You want to hear this great answer. Like, oh, you want to really shove your hands in their face and drop that in? It's a cool, dominant answer. But really, at the end of the day, it's having the ability to read your setter. And it's one of the hardest technical skills to master because you can't guess, and your body instinctively wants to guess and move and go before it knows, but you have to make sure that you're reading properly. So the best advice I can give you is watch volleyball. And if you can, watch it where you can see the setter on the other side of the net. So it's almost like you're watching your team and the opponent, and you can see the opponent. And what you do is you watch the game, and as the setter's about to contact, you pause, and you try to read the setter's hands and see where they're going. So you pause, and you say, okay, looks like her hands are low, she's going to set forward. And then you play, and you kind of quiz yourself, and if she sets forward, great, awesome read. And you do that throughout the match to kind of practice read blocking. And in doing that, you will become more faster and more dynamic, You become faster and more dynamic on the court, which allows you to be a more aggressive middle blocker. If you can eliminate those guessy moves and those static kind of shifts back and forth, a bee just flew in my room. There's a bee in my room. Oh, God. Anyway, if you can eliminate those guess reads, that's going to make you a more dynamic and effective middle blocker. So you're going to then really shove your hands over, but you can't do that without the good read. So that's a great place to start. And then, sorry, the second part of your question, reading the hitter, the secret, it's all in the shoulder, baby. The shoulder will tell you a lot. If you can get your eyes from ball setter, ball hitter, and look at the shoulder, it can tell you a lot. Because she'll go thumb down if she wants to hit sharp, and you'll see her shoulder rotate. If it looks like she's coming cross body, you'll see a delay in her shoulder. It's a split second, but if you can read that hitter's shoulder, it really helps open everything up. Thank you for asking, Eva. I have a really bad habit of also talking a lot. So feel free to just shut me up and be like, that was a long-winded answer. Be quiet. I'll stop talking. I'm so
It's
sorry.
a great habit, Haleigh. We like that habit here.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay. I don't know.
I think a lot of us have that habit. We just kind of ramble on. So you're more than welcome to go for it.
Not all of us. Not all of us.
Maybe not Garrett. Maybe not Garrett. I love that answer because I think the way you broke it down, where you are almost challenging against human instinct. Like you want to guess, you want to kind of move a little bit, and volleyball is a lot of going against human instinct and controlling those urges to want to get there faster. Like for instance, in serve receive, like you just have to be calm when a bomb is coming at you. Now, and I got the same sense for blocking. Like you just got to be calm and take the information you can and react with it. If you react wrong, you learn and you keep going. So thank you for that answer. Ava, I hope that helped kind of get some understanding about that blocking tactic.
Yes, thank you so much.
Great question, Ava. Thanks for asking. Good luck with your middle life, girl. Let's go.
All right, we're going to move on to our next question. And this is one of our younger players, but is a huge force in our club. Caroline, would you mind unmuting yourself and asking your question?
Hi, thank you for being here. I will let you do for my question is, who is the volleyball player that you look up to the most?
Hi, Caroline. First of all, is that a Penn State volleyball you got right there? Ooh, girl, we got a Penn State lover out here. That's what I like to see. We are, baby, we are. Let's go. Okay, sorry. The volleyball player I look up to the most. So, not gonna lie, we had a little bit of a cheat sheet, and someone had sent me this question, and I had read it already, and it petrified me. I was so nervous because I was never really big on following volleyball when I was younger. I was very secluded from the game. I just kind of played volleyball because there's something to do. I never really followed the game. And so I was worried. I was like, well, there's so many great volleyball players out there. Who am I going to pick? I'm freaking out. But I think the volleyball player that inspires me the most is it's kind of a cliche question. It's kind of a cliche answer, but it's Feluca Akinradowell. I think a lot of people expect that answer, and I know it's a little bit cliche. Thank you. She's an incredible middle, and she's a mom now. So following her story has been awesome. She was one of the youngest middles to come into the gym. She's always been a dominant, quick player, and if you know my game, I'm not a very fast middle, but I think I'm a very dynamic and aggressive middle. And so watching her game allows me to watch another style of play for my position. And so Feluca Akinradowell has always been someone that I look up to because she's kind of a goal and someone that I'm, for lack of a better term, chasing. Like, I want to be like Feluca. And what can I do to be like this person that is so great and is so dominant? And so I'm chasing her, and I admire her, and I respect her as a mother, as a person, and as a player. So I'm so glad you asked that question. It really challenged me to kind of dig deep and figure out someone that I look up to and admire. And I also admire anybody that steps on the court and learn and get better. So again, kind of a generic Hallmark card answer. But if you are willing to learn and grow as a volleyball player, which Caroline looked like that kind of person, I admire you and I admire your passion. So snaps for you, girly. Let's go. Good question.
Thank you.
Thank you, Caroline. I think a huge thing to take away from that response is the chase. Our athletes, you want to have something that you're chasing every time you step on that court, whether it be a goal, whether it be a position, whether it be a future that you're designed to go after. We need to make sure we have something to chase. So I love that answer once again. We're going to shift over to Caitlin. Would you mind unmuting yourself and asking Haleigh your question?
Hi, yeah, for being here. You sort of answered this in Ava's question, but I was wondering if you have any tips to predict where hitters are going to hit to.
Yeah, it's again a great question. And yeah, I did touch on it a little bit, but there's always so many tiny details that you can figure out in the game, because everything happens in a matter of microseconds, but there's lots of information out there. So for starters, when you're doing your block, you have your blocking eye work where you go ball setter, ball hitter. And that first movement of watching where the ball goes from the setter's hands will tell you so much. If the ball is a little bit too wide, there's a good chance your hitter's not going to be able to hit their money shot. If the ball's a little bit inside, hitters tend to go where the ball takes them. So if the ball's inside, the hitter will tend to hit a little bit sharper cross. That's not always a guarantee, but as middles, as blockers, we want to take away the most likely shot. So the hitter will go where the ball goes. Like I was telling Ava, you also have the shoulder. That can tell you a lot. And an angle of approach. One of the things that we talked about a lot at Penn State was what type of hitter was their opponent's outside. An out to in hitter, where they kind of came from outside the court and then dove in, or were they more of an in to out hitter, where they kind of came along the line and then would jump out, which was a way to attack, but some people did it. And so angle of approach is also a great thing you can look at. And there's also tiny micro details. So some people have a whip arm. If you're scouting, they hit like this, where it's more of like a whip. That'll tell you a lot about a hitter. Some people are a little bit more stiff and can only hit in the angle of their approach. So how you scout and look at your opponents will also tell you a lot of information. And that's such a great part about volleyball, Caitlin, don't you think? Like, there's so many little microcosms of information to learn, and there you can just get better. Oh, I love this game, you guys. I miss it so much. Anyway, Caitlin, thank you so much for asking your question. Hope I answered it all right.
Yeah, thank you.
Cool, thanks.
Awesome response. I love the idea of IDing the hitter's hitting style. Because that's work we can do when we're not on the court. Like if we're at a tournament sitting on the sideline, you can just sit down and you know you're going up against this team. You can see the hitting style because everyone has a different arm swing. Everyone has a different athletic ability. So being able to ID that and take that information and bring it to your game as a blocker, I think is a huge advantage. So athletes, make sure we're taking some time to ID what a hitter is capable of and their hitting style, because it'll pay off huge. One thing I want to mention, if you have any questions that you'd like to ask, feel free to send them in the chat. We have plenty of time with Haleigh here, so get those questions coming in. All right, guys? We're going to move on to Whitney Wise, one of our middles, a player that I coached for a few years and has developed wonderfully into the middle that we know today. So Whitney, would you mind unmuting yourself and asking Haleigh your question?
Hi, thank you so much for coming. We recently have been talking a lot about like short sayings that you can say to yourself while you're like in the middle of a match to hype yourself up, and we were just wondering, or I was wondering what you say to yourself when like you're either winning or losing a match.
First of all, hi Whitney. That is such a great question, and I'm so glad you asked that because I just recently read this phenomenal book called Legacy by James Kerr. And it's this great book about the New Zealand All Blacks. They're this really successful winning rugby team. And it's this awesome story because it teaches you how to become a better leader and a better person and a better player. And one of the things that they talk about are like mantras for your team. And so I recently sat down and created my own mantras based off of what this Legacy book kind of had taught me. And so on the court, I'll start with like things that I say on the court because you can't always like be reciting your mantras. Like I have like 6 or 7 mantras. You can't recite them all. So on the court, I think the number one mantra that I have whispered and mentioned to myself is 1 point at a time. Let's do this. And yeah, it's a little bit PG in the way that I say it, but yeah. So it's 1 point at a time. Let's focus up. Let's lock in. And that 1 point at a time specifically is the one that I really focus on. And I've been saying it since I was in high school. In high school, we were playing for the state championship, I remember. And I distinctively remember this point. It was 24-21 or something. Match point. I'm at the net, and I'm ready for them to, like, come back. Like, I was like, there's no, like, I have to be ready for anything. They could dump. They could ace us. I don't know what's going to happen. So I was at the net, and we were just about to win, but I wasn't relishing in the win just yet. I was really focused on 1 more point. Let's do this. Let's be locked in. So that 1 more point mantra has really followed me all through my career. And then these new mantras that I've come up with, and these are ones I don't always recite on the court. I kind of recite them before practice or when I'm feeling a little bit less motivated or not really feeling in my zone. But these are my mantras that I got from Legacy. Sorry, this is a long answer again. Please feel free to tell me to just shut up at any point. So I wrote them in my journal. This is my journal. I love this thing. Would recommend getting a journal. And my mantras are, number 1, burn the boats. So this is the idea of don't look back. Yeah, there's a story behind it. Like, I think one conquistador burned the boats of his men so they couldn't go back to Spain, and so it forced them to adapt to their environment and adjust and grow. So burn the boats. Don't look back. Don't look at your past. Focus on being in the now and adapting. 2, I'm going to say a bad word. I'm really sorry. Don't be a dickhead. I think that's so important as a teammate You need to be a good person. You need to be respectful. You need to be honest. Don't be a dickhead. Number 3, be you. Figure out what it is you bring to the team and do so in the most authentic and positive way to make the people around you better. 4, better people make better All Blacks, which is the All Blacks New Zealand team. And that's basically just focusing on, it's not always about being a better player, but it's also about being a better person. And finally, I promise this is the last one, wash your dish. So in the All Blacks, they call it sweeping the sheds. But for me personally, I have a really bad habit of not washing my dishes. So I've made it my new mantra, wash your dish. It means clean up after yourself. Nobody should have to clean up or pick up after you. If you want to be an elite player, an elite person, you clean up your mess, you take care of your area. It's a sign of respect and integrity. So I'm sorry, again, long-winded answer, but those are my mantras. The number one that I say on the court is this point right here, right now. Really great question. I'm so sorry that was a long answer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Haleigh, definitely no need to apologize. The more information you can give our players, the better. So feel free to go on as long as possible. I think the one that resonates with me most is burn the boats.
Burn the boats, baby.
Burn them. I heard that story before, and the idea that captain had to, like, all right, guys, we have no other option but to adapt is huge. If we can take that mentality to the court, like, hey, we're in this situation. We're not just going to whine and gripe about the fact that this team is this talented or better than us or whatever situation we're in the middle of a match. The boats are gone. We're here now. Let's adapt. Let's get better, and let's triumph or fail learning. I mean, whatever the outcome is, we have to make sure that there is no alternative, that we're not backing out.
Absolutely. Love that. Couldn't.
Awesome. All right, we have our own Coach Kat with some questions to ask you. So, Kat, take it away.
All right, first I have a quick story that I meant to tell in our intro, and I forgot that a couple of the coaches know this, but I don't think any of the players do. So, you guys know, when I had to play against Haleigh, so she joined the team in Italy halfway through the season. So the first time we played them, she wasn't on the team. We beat them pretty handily. Second time, we were going to play them, and our coach is like rightfully like cluing in on Haleigh, like, we got to pay attention. And we're like, yep, we know she's really, really good. And I remember the very first set, I got an out of system ball like set to me, probably 8 to 10 feet off the net, just a regular kind of high ball. And I'm like, all right, block's not really a factor here. I'm just going to swing like high and deep into like 5, try to go, over or wide of the block. And like, honestly, the block was like not something I was thinking about here. I'm like, I'm just going to go like high. And I go and I swing to like high 5-6 seam. And all of a sudden, like Haleigh's left hand just like extends like JoJo gadget arms. And she just like roops me straight down on this ball that I was like, didn't even think that the block was going to be involved. And then let me tell you, like the rest of the game, I think I hit line. Like, I'm like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not making that mistake again. Like, it's like, you guys know the effect as hitters a big block can have on you, especially when you don't see them coming and you're not like thinking, like you're just thinking you have a good, nice open swing. So, man, Haleigh, you really got our attention after that one. I was like, okay, line it is.
Yeah, I remember when you switched to hitting line, and I was so pissed. I was like, stop hitting there. I can't block.
I'm not doing that again. I'm not going to hit cross anymore. At least not when you were in. I think I was matched up against you all the time. You and the 6-6 right side. That was a big block. So yeah, that was a fun story. I always think of that. My first question. So you obviously are a super impactful player in terms of attacking, blocking. Those are like your go-to skills that you make a huge impact on. But I know there's also like a lot of little things that you do to help your team. And I was wondering if that's something that you could talk about, like some of the things that you take pride in outside of attacking and blocking, or maybe in a game where you're not getting set a ton, if your team is struggling to pass, they can't get you a ball. Like, how do you stay involved and do those little things for your team?
Yeah, for sure. I think there are like a couple ways you can answer this question. I think physically, like if I'm not attacking or blocking, the little things I like to do well are I really like to make sure that my ball control is reliable. So if someone's going to serve a short ball, I know that I can get my feet to the ball. I have the control to pass a controlled ball, and we can still run an in-system offense. I think a lot of times us middles, we're told, you're a middle blocker. All you have to do is hit and attack or hit and block. You don't have to be a good passer. Don't even worry about it. You probably suck at passing anyway. Actually, we all know you're a middle. You suck at pass. Like, we're told constantly that our ball control is terrible. Which
I believe it.
All and goofy. But don't, the middles, I'm talking to you all right now. Don't buy it. You are a good passer. And you may not be great right now, but pass to yourself. Go pass against your house. Go pass with your friends. Learn that ball control. It's a skill that goes so far. And if you can be a middle blocker that has that skill, that's huge. So, ball control. Secondly, everyone in the USA gym is required to know how to add a system set, because at any point in the game, it could be a key point. And if our setter can't get the ball and it has to be you need to be able to have the composure to set the ball. So I also like to be a pretty good out-of-system setter. I think that those are two little things. Good ball control and out-of-system setting are two little things I pride myself on. Another thing, physical, but is more little thing, is I lead, quote unquote, with my energy. I don't know if you know this, Kat, but I'm a very passionate and fiery player. I'm a very passionate and loud person. And so one of my little things that I do is I always make sure that I'm bringing that energy. So if we're down, or if it's quiet, or if my team is feeling a little tight, I like to stay loose and goofy, and kind of bringing that light-hearted energy is a little thing that I can do that my team can rely on. So if I'm not hitting and I'm not blocking, or I'm not really doing much, my team still can feel my presence and still knows I'm out there. So those are some little things.
That's awesome. I love that. And I think that's something like that rhetoric around the kind of stereotypes of the middle blockers is something like we actively try to like go against. I mean, we our middles pass. We had practice. Remember, Corner Wit, we had a practice where you guys set the whole time for 2 hours. They didn't hit one ball. They just set high balls. That might have been their favorite practice of the season. But like you're a volleyball player and you get to the international level, you have to serve. You liberos can't serve. You have to serve. You got to play defense. You got to set. You know, everyone is good at all the things. So that's awesome.
At all the things. You must be good at all the things.
Be great at a couple of them and be good at all of them. You know, you got to be able to do those little things. That's awesome. I got a second question too. So about your hitting percentage. So I saw like you just consistently are in like 400, 500, like you're putting up hitting percentages that are insane. And I know that has to do partly with obviously putting the ball away, like you're getting kills sometimes 50% or more of your swings, but also minimizing errors, you know, because those can take that stat down really quickly. So I was wondering if you could talk about on quick sets, you know, when you don't have a lot of control over where that ball is set, how you maximize your kills and minimize, you know, your errors in those fast situations.
Yeah, for sure. I think for starters, a skill that I really value and I really like about myself is vision. I feel like I always had good vision on being able to see the court and seeing the blocker. So that really helps with minimizing errors because I won't always hit into the block. Now I get blocked sometimes. It happens. It's part of the game. But being able to see, okay, my blocker is diving into that 5 seam. I know the setter is over there in 1, so I need to hit sharper cross and really get on top of the ball to get this kill. And I know like this happens in a matter of seconds, but I'm up, I see where the block's going, and I swing as hard as I can to where the block is not, so I can also beat the digger. So that's one way that I kind of minimize errors, is using my vision in order to see. Another thing that I do to maximize efficiency is I remember this line that Russ said, and it's actually followed me so much into my professional career because professionally, defenders are so elite overseas. Like, I think in the collegiate game, you don't see as strong defensive players, but overseas, you see very strong defenders. People are very good at reading the game. And so the line from Russ is you have to be able to beat the block and beat the defender. It's not just about getting past the block, but you also have to find a way to beat that defensive player in the backcourt. So what I have to do is when I'm trying to maximize my efficiency is I know where people are not. So for example, if I have 2 people that are tracking me on the slide, which happens all the time, I have to be able to find a way around the block and also hit into a zone high and deep enough where there's not a defender. So middles, cheat sheet for you. If you can learn to hit high 5-6 seam on the slide, you'll be one of the most dominant middles in the game, hands down. Nobody defends there because the libero likes to dig line. You have your middle back that shifts into that cross court. So 5-6 seam is open 8 times out of 10. It's always there. So being able to hit where your defender is not and getting past the block is huge. So shout out Russ Rose. He's the one that gave me that tip. Love that guy. Miss him dearly.
That's awesome. I love that. Like just getting it past the block isn't enough. You got to find some space or hit it hard enough that they can't dig you.
Absolutely. Or another piece of advice, just hit the crap out of the ball. Like, just knock the snot out of it. One of the best feelings is when you get it past the block and a digger gets it, but they can't control it because you just hit the snot out of it and it just goes over the net. And you're like, nice try. That's also a great feeling. So another piece.
I love that. Getting dug is like a personal insult. It's like, if I get blocked, it's like, okay, good block. If I get dug, I'm mad.
Yeah, I take it personally. I'm like, okay, clearly I need to knock your teeth out. All right, next one, set me again.
Let's go. Love it. Great answer.
Thanks, Kat. Good questions.
Thank you.
Love those answers. Middles, I want to see some people be fearful of you. Corn, I've seen you take over a ball and take over a set and just wreck someone. So we need to make sure that's happening more regularly in our gym. You get an opportunity to hit, you hit the snot out of the ball. All right. And here's a plug right to Corn. Cornelia, would you mind unmuting yourself and asking Haleigh your question?
I'll say it. Hi. So my question is, as a middle, when you're playing against a really offensive setter, what do you think is the most effective way to get a block up for that setter, but then also like staying on top of the pins and like the middle block and the middle hitters too, from the physical side, but also like the mental side?
Yeah, for sure. Super great question. And this kind of goes back to what we had talked about earlier about fighting human instinct. So when you have a really aggressive setter, and actually the worst thing you can play against is a really aggressive setter who's also very smart. Sometimes you have aggressive setters that are just idiots. That's rude. I'm sorry for saying that, but it's true. Sometimes they're just idiots. And they're like, I'm going to attack this ball right now. And they make it so obvious and they go up and you stuff them and you're like, hey, you're an idiot. That was not smart. So that's great. I love playing aggressive, not smart setters. But sometimes you get those cheeky little setters that are aggressive and really smart. So the ball will be super, super tight, and you're like, oh, they're going to dunk because it's so tight. And then they like, Maddie Bug does this all the time. She was a great setter for Stanford. She goes up with one hand and just pushes it out to the pin with one hand. And you're like, well, great, thanks. Now I look like an idiot. Now you're the idiot. And so those are the worst setters to play against. And so the best thing you can do is fight that human instinct to pop whenever you can. You really want to use that read blocking skill that I was talking about earlier. So you want to be really locked in on their hands. And you want to keep your eyes on their wrists. That's going to be the secret. And you want to fight every fiber of your being that says pop when it's really tight. Because you can't pop until you see that inside hand start to drop and it looks like they're going to dump. And so you wait on it, and as soon as it starts to drop, then you're alert. You let your muscles start to fire and you pop, and you just, even if you can just get a touch on the ball, that's huge. So you have to fight that instinct, and you have to stay calm, and don't let your hands sneak up. Because if they end up here and then they set their middle, you don't really have a lot of explosion. So you need to keep your hands in that steady neutral position, watching the setter. If she starts to look like she's going to dump, then you start to fire. And if it looks like she's going to set, you shoot those hands over the net. And you want to get them over as opposed to getting them high, which, guys, I'm so bad at. If you watch any of my blocking, I'm such a high blocker. And so that's something I really work on, shooting my hands over the net and not being too high. But it's a really tough skill. And it's not easy because, again, you're fighting that instinct like John and I were talking about earlier. Your body wants to just go, but you have to fight your brain. You have to calm it down, which is really hard for me because I'm a very fiery person. So you have to calm everything down and shoot your hands over. Really good question. I'm sorry. Again, long-winded answer, but I'm so glad you asked that. Really great question.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm out of coffee.
I know Corn is so pumped to be able to talk to you. She's like giddy over there. But she's one of our middles that's a homegrown project. We brought her into the gym, and she has just gotten so much better. So I'm glad that Corn was able to ask that question, especially to somebody of your caliber. And in middles, I think the huge thing to take away is just vision. Being able to start to see the small cues of your opponents that'll give you an advantage. Like that inside hand tip that Haleigh just mentioned to us. A setter can only engage offensively if they're going to drop a hand, unless they're doing one of those two-hand dumps that's starting to evolve in the game. But our libero should be able to take that.
Exactly.
So let's really start thinking about what you're looking at as you're playing and not just kind of losing the mental side of the game. All right, we're going to move into our next question. This is by another one of our coaches, Coach Garrett. Would you mind asking our question?
Haleigh, oh my God, you're the coolest person. And You're just, the energy is amazing. We're having the best time. And thank you for that. One of the things I gotta kind of shift my question up here because of the things you've been talking about. But I feel like there's this weird negative stigma around playing middle. Like so many times we've asked someone to, hey, can you jump into the middle? And it's like, oh. And man, what people are missing is this thing that you're shedding light on. Being a middle, you're like part of a sorority. Like it's different. You know what I mean? Like you're talking about middle gang. Like that's a thing. That was always a thing. And it still exists. So like can you elaborate on this? Like why is this such a great place to be? Why should more people want to try this out?
Yeah, for sure. I'd love to touch on that. For starters, I totally get why that negative stigma is around middle, because it sucks. Middle is a terrible, it's so hard. We're the ones that are in the middle of the court. We have to process the most information in the shortest amount of time. Then we have to work our butts off to go to either pin really, really fast. And then not only that, but we also are in charge of making sure that our block is secure and dominant and baller. Then we got to land, transition off the net for a ball we're probably not going to get set on. And then we got to do the whole thing over again until your stupid outside, no, I'm just kidding, outside. Your outside finds a way to put the ball down. So yeah, I get why people don't like it. But here's why middle gang is as great as it is. And what, yes, Corn, I saw that. Let's go, middle gang. And why it's such a great part of it. For starters and setters, no knock to the setters that are here, I think we're one of the most cerebral positions on the court. People, again, think middles are little dumb, lumbering, big people, but there's so much that we have to see. I remember one of my first years playing volleyball, my mom asked, Haleigh, when you're looking on the other side of the net, what do you see? And I was like, well, the person serves the ball, and I see how the passer is going to line up, and if she's in line or not in line, and then I see where she passes the ball. And if it's a little too tight, I need to understand that the setter might dump or something might come over. And then if it's not too tight, then I'm processing, okay, the setter's getting her feet to the ball. Is it in system? Is it out of system? Okay, it's in system. I know they have 4 routes on, like internationally. They have 4 routes on. They have their right side, they have their middle, who's their most primary attacker. They have their outside, and they also have a pipe blocker. So I need to make sure that I'm ready to go for all that. It's a perfect pass. The setter, when we scouted them, no. There's so much that goes. And then I'm watching the setter and seeing where her hands go. And then the ball is set. Is it too tight? Is it off? Where's the attacker going to go? What's the attacker? And then they're swinging. And then I'm transiting. There's so much that goes on in the middle position. And we have to be so cerebral. And we have to shut everything else out. So I have the utmost respect for middles because we're grinding. And we're thinking. And we're adjusting. And our balls are so technical. Like when you're running a quick attack, if it's a little too high, it's tough to get on. If it's a little too slow, it's tough to get on. You have to have your spacing properly. It's tough to adjust to these sets. Plus, there's a million sets we run. There's the gap. There's the push. There's the one. There's the slide. And on top of all that, nobody thinks we can do anything else but attack and block. So we also got to defend ourselves as passers and setters. And we got to be the best servers on the court. Middles, by the way, be the best server on the court. One of the best compliments I ever got, Coach told Russ, Haleigh, I think, is one of the best servers in the world. I was floored, you guys, because I don't think I'm a good server. But, again, it's come up again that I'm this great server. And so now I want all my middles to be the best servers on the floor. And so, yeah, there's so much that goes into being a middle. And I don't really know any other positions, so maybe I'm way wrong. But there's a pride in that hard work, that grit, and that cerebral volleyball IQ that makes middle gang middle gang. So, shout out to all my middles out there that are on. Garrett, thank you so much for asking the question, even though you made that dumb comment about riding a bike and throwing the frisbee. But,
whoa, just an idea. Just an idea.
But yeah.
That's an awesome answer, Haleigh. It sounds like the real bond comes from knowing that this is such hard work and like this is what we all do. It's just a little bit different than everyone else. So the second part of this now is as a middle, and this could be for anyone who's in this similar position. You're in for 3 rotations in the front row, and then you're serving, and then you're out. And this can be difficult. I know it can be difficult. Tell me just what's your thought process when you're out? How are you staying involved? How are you continuing to bring that energy that you have? How are you going to make an impact in those 3 rotations you're not in the game?
Yeah. For starters, when I'm out of the game, so like let's say we're playing against, like I'm not a starter for a match. This happened a little bit in BNL where I wasn't a starter. When I'm not a starter, I'm usually in the box, which is the bench internationally. I'm in the box, and I'm super loud, and I'm super energetic, and I'm doing all the dances, and like we're doing all the box cheers, and it's so fun, and like I just like to bring a high energy. But then when I am a starter, when I am playing in the match, and I get rotated off and I go into the box, it's a completely different energy. Like I stay a little bit more reserved. I'm not quite as involved in the box cheers. I'm not jumping up and down as much because I'm so locked into what I'm watching. I'm really focusing on reading the setter, on refining that skill, and just using that time where I'm not on to be so locked in and making sure that I got the cues. Because when you're at the net and super tight, it's a little tough to see all the cues. So when you're off and in the box, you can really refine them because you're taking a step back and you get more vision when you're further away. So I use it to refine my settings, or my setter reading. I also use that time to decompress. Like I was saying, there's so much that goes into being a middle. Sometimes it's good to just mentally take a break. Just watch the game. Relax, decompress a little bit, kind of just refocus and get settled into the match. And then finally, I use it to motivate myself. One of my favorite things is after those 2 rotations that I'm just about to go on, I sit on the sidelines on the bench next to my coach, and he tells me, hey, make sure you drop that inside hand, or work a little bit early on our out-of-system blocking. So I take those few things, and then I sit on the bench, and I get so hungry. I want to get out there. I'm ready to go. I'm itching for them to miss their stuff, for me to rotate, and I want to get back. I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it. Oh, my gosh. I want to get back on the court. And then there's that rotate in, and I slap the ground 3 times. If you ever watch me play, when I rotate in, I will slap the ground 3 times, just as like a good luck thing, and also as a let's effing go thing, and then I run into the court. And so those 3 rotations off are kind of like a mentally re-prep time. Like it's like a pit stop in NASCAR. Pit stop, if anybody's seen the movie Cars. Tires adjusted, I'm getting more gas, and I'm ready to go, and I'm back in the game. You know what I mean? Does that answer your question?
Awesome. Dude, yeah, totally answers the question. Doesn't sound like you ever miss your rotation and coach is like, Haleigh, you're in.
No. That happened one time, and I was mortified. I was like, oh my God, never again. I'm so sorry. You'll never.
Yeah, that probably happens too often for some of us. But, dude, awesome answers. Thank you so much.
Yeah, for sure. Garrett's like, it happens to like some of us, not me.
I never did that. That's not what we're saying.
Garrett, you snagged my comment, man. I was about to say that the same thing. I wonder if any of our middles have ever missed their rotation to come on in. But
you know the answer to that.
It sounds like if we take some of the hints that Haleigh gave us, like just being as powerful off the court as you are on the court, it's impossible to miss that rotation because you're just like a caged animal ready to get back into that court. So let's kind of try to embody that. I mean, you're seeing the fire that one of the best middle blockers in the world has for just talking about volleyball. There's nothing wrong with being this passionate about something you love. So, corn. So let's make sure we're in it for every single point, no matter what you're working on. All right, we opened it up to, yeah.
Sorry for interrupting. Can I touch on that really quick? I'm so sorry. Do you
Go
mind?
for it. Absolutely.
Locked in on every point that's involved. Karch talks about this a lot. So one of the things that he says in the USA gym is there's about 60 seconds. On average, there's about 60 seconds in each play, give or take one long rally versus one really short rally. And he says, if you can be locked in for 200 times at 60 seconds, that's a whole volleyball match. And it sounds really intimidating, but that's what it takes. If you can just be locked in for those 200-ish moments for that 60 seconds max, that's volleyball. And that's where that hunger and that fire can kind of be fueled because you have a tangible timeline. And I think that that's such a great way of thinking about it. And sometimes my focus will drain off. Like I'll be in a match and I'll be like, I'm exhausted. This sucks. Like, or we have a big lead. I don't really care. But I have to refocus. So I'm like, okay, I have 114 more times I have to be locked in on. Let's really focus up. So yeah, sorry. I'm sorry for interrupting, but thank you for letting me comment.
No worries. I think that's a great way to approach the game. We always ask our athletes to think about kind of resetting, getting back to where you are in the moment. And I've never heard it described that way. There are only about 200 of these moments in every single match or so. depending on the level that you're playing. And I think that's an approachable way to think about the game.
Yeah, I don't know if the math checks out. I've not checked the math. I'm not a numbers person, so let me know how accurate it is.
Yeah, we're gonna trust Karch on that one.
Okay.
We'll just trust his math. All right, so we opened up the chat to some questions, and we got some great ones here. I'm going to ask Grace to mention her question. We actually had Lila ask the same one, and it's related to passion. So Grace, would you mind unmuting yourself and asking your question?
Haleigh, thank you so much for joining us. So my question was, sorry, I'm trying to find it in the chat. Have you always been this passionate about the game, or did you learn to love it even more like as you continue playing?
That's a really great question. I have always been a super fiery and obnoxious person. There's no shame in my game. I have always been like this. I think recently, because I have matured, in my prime, I've matured and I've really identified what it is that makes me so passionate and what makes me so grateful. But I think I've always been a fiery player. Even when I was playing in like middle school and it was just like bump, 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 and then it would land on the other team's side, I'm like, yeah, we got the ball, let's go. Like I've always been kind of this goofy, loud, eccentric person. And I think it's one of the things that I really like about my style of play. I might not always be the cleanest, or I might not always make the right block read, because I'm not perfect, I'm human, but I will always, hands down, bring fire and passion and energy. And I remember one time we were playing against a team at Penn State. We were playing at Northwestern, and it was like not a good game. We played horribly. And I had our assistant coach pull me aside and was like, Haleigh, the one thing that stinks about being as passionate as you are is people can tell when you're not being passionate and fiery. It's really easy to see. And so right now you're a little bit quiet. Is everything okay? And I really took that to heart. And it was my sophomore year, so it was several years ago, and it really resonated with me. And it's my thing now. It's my shtick. I always check in and see, am I bringing that same fire and that same passion, that same energy? Because if not, people can tell. And that's not what I want to be known for. So yeah, to answer your question, I think I've always been an obnoxious, yelling, banging on my chest, ripping at my jersey type player. I can't help it. It's in my blood. I don't know where it came from. I don't know.
Thank you.
It's great.
What I can take away from that is like, be you. Like whoever you're going to be, dedicate yourself to being that to help your team. Whether you're quiet and reflective and you're really reading the game and you want to give your players some tips, go ahead and do that. If you're fiery and want to bust out of your jersey, go ahead and do that. Make sure that you're authentic and being you for your team to make sure that they're better. Awesome answer. All right, we're going to move to Sam Stievelman. She asked the question in the chat. So Sam, would you mind unmuting yourself and asking your question?
Hi, so I was wondering, what are some tips for getting a high vertical jump specifically for blocking?
Yes, Sam, really good question. So there's no, actually, I guess there are some secrets and there are some keys that you can use. For starters, stretch. I think if anybody wants to increase their vertical, stretching is huge. When I was a kid, my dad would make me stretch for like 2 hours a night. I don't know why, guy's a psychopath, but I would just do it while I did homework. So I'd be doing my homework on the floor and I'd stretch my hamstrings, I'd stretch my quads, blah, 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 blah. So stretching and rolling out also. You can roll out those IT bands and really get your legs nice and healthy and everything loose. I think you could add at least half an inch to an inch to your vertical. Also finding different ways to jump on different types of flooring. So not concrete, really bad on your knees, hard on the joints. But if you can go play outside and jump in grass, that's a whole different dynamic. If you can go and play in sand, that's another great way to feel that resistance, honestly. So when you go back inside, you're like, wow, this is a piece of cake. So playing sand and playing grass are also great ways to work on that block jump. And if you get other people that you can play sand with, you can actually work on a dynamic sand block, which is very stagnant, and it really uses your arms and your legs to pull you up and push you over the net. So you don't really get that counter movement jump that you get in blocking where you're making a block move and you're using that momentum. You're really stagnant, so it really works your legs and helps you that way. And then finally, just refining that footwork. I know it sounds stupid, but if you can really nail the basics, the left, the right, left, right, the crossover twos, the long dynamic arms to pull you up, those are all really great ways that you can maximize your vertical as much as possible.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Stan. That's a good question.
I'm taking away from that response. You guys got to get out there and play. All right, play in different environments, grass, sand. It's starting to be beautiful in Connecticut, guys. Get yourself a net. Even if you don't have a net, just go out there and start jumping. Get out and start playing again. All right. I have one more question, and this question is from Lily. She's new to our club, but has made a huge splash in her arrival, and she's asking a question about middles and setters. So Lily, would you mind unmuting yourself and asking your question?
Thank you. Hi, Haleigh. I just want to say thank you so much for being here. I have so much respect for you as a player, and I love your energy so much, and you just are so cool. So my question is, especially when, obviously if you're running, what kind of offense you're running, maybe you have two setters, whatever, what is your biggest advice towards like timing with different setters? Because like our position, it's so important that you have to get that tempo, like you really have to try and get that trust in, and like what's just like your biggest advice on like how to improve that?
Yeah, Lily, that is a phenomenal question, and it's one that I think middles struggle with all the time. First of all, thank you for what you said. You are so sweet. Oh my God.
I love you.
Oh, anyway, sorry, back to your question. I think for middles, one of the best things we can do to help our setters find us as attackers is being very consistent. So always have the same timing and the same style of approach. You don't want to like change it up for one setter and slow down, and then for the other setter be fast. Like if you can be consistent, your setters can both watch you and work with you to figure out what that tempo needs to be. So you need to figure out what your tempo is going to be so your setter can consistently find you. Secondly, you need to develop a feedback loop. I'm going to say that again. I'm going to say it slower. You need to develop a feedback loop. Middles, tell your setter what they need to do. Setters, listen and don't take it personally. I think that was one of my biggest struggles growing up, was I was like, well, I don't want to tell my setter that I need it higher because it's mean, because they're just trying to shut up. They don't care. They respect you as a player. You respect them as a player. It's fine. Tell them, hey, I need that a little bit higher. Hey, can you push that a little bit faster? And in turn, to my setters, if you're on here, respond back. Hey, I think you were a little bit tight on that. Yes, absolutely, I got you that ball. And when they nail it, you freak out, because it's not about you. Yes, you were the one that bounced the ball, but they got you that ball. So you go up, you slap them on the back, ass, whatever you want to do. You tell them, that's my girl. That's my set. Let's go. Like, it's awesome when your setter can nail that ball. So develop that feedback loop so you can celebrate later on. And then finally, yes, absolutely, isn't it the best? And then finally, big, anytime you're hitting a gap or you're hitting a one, or even on the slide, you want to have a big window. We got big, long arms. Oh, I just knocked a picture off my wall, whatever. You got big, long arms as middles. So you want to make that window so your setter can be like, oh, look, there they are. And then they can set it. So big window, consistent tempo, feedback loop, baby. Let's go. Really great question.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good luck with everything, man. Go make that big window, babe.
Yes.
I think Lily will definitely take that advice and just be as big as a player as possible. She's one of our hardest workers, and you can tell in practice she's like really trying to find that feedback to make her setter's job easier. Ladies and gentlemen, are there any more questions out there? I don't want this hour to end because Haleigh is just awesome. So anyone, send a question and we'll tee you up here. Anyone else? Uh-oh, we got crickets. Let me take a look at the chat one more time, make sure I didn't miss anyone.
Haleigh, I have a question from a friend who sent me a question to ask you.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
My friend is Nicholas Hunt. You may know him. He trained with Team USA for a little while. And when he saw you were coming on today, he asked me to ask you a question. He said he wants to know when you realized that you were becoming and have become such an important and integral piece to Team USA.
I'm afraid my answer to that question is a little bit underwhelming, because I don't necessarily think I'm an integral piece to Team USA. I love that I've been given these awesome opportunities to go and start. Love that I was given the chance to wear the USA jersey and qualify for the Olympics in America. That was the coolest experience ever. But I don't necessarily think that I'm an integral part of the team because there are so many great players that you could throw anyone in and they could be an integral part of the team. It just has to do with what opportunities you seize and what you do with those opportunities when they're given to you. So I had the chance to play at VNL, and I had a great time at VNL, and I guess I was the best middle blocker. I don't necessarily agree with that because there's still so much of my game that I need to improve on and get better at. I need to be a better read blocker. I need to transition faster. I need to be a more dominant attacker. I got my stats back from our blocking coach for my last summer, and I was like an above average blocker, like attacker, and like a pretty average blocker in comparison to the top 6 teams. But it's not good enough. I don't want to be above average and like everybody else. I want to be the best. There's this little square. So like we got this like graph, and like I'm in the top 75th percentile, and the best you can be is in this little top right corner. And I made an X there, and I'm going to get to that top right corner. And I'm going to be one of the best blockers in the world. And then when I'm one of the best blockers and my hitting percentage is in that top right corner of that box, I will come back and I'll be like, hey, yeah, I'm an integral part of USA because I did that work, because I put that work in. But until then, I'm everybody else. And I know that anybody could jump in and do what I did because there's so much room for growth. And so, yeah, I'm waiting, but my time is coming. It shall arrive.
That's a cool answer. I'll relay a paraphrase version to him. And hey, also, I think it's so cool that you, even given the awards and the accolades, you are still hungry for more. And I also disagree with you that anyone could jump in and do what you did. But I think it's also fair for you to give yourself some credit for that stuff. That's really important as well. So keep grinding, man. I'm excited to see where you wind up.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Awesome. We got 2 more questions that came in. Nora, feel free to hop in there.
Hi, this is so cool to meet you. I was just wondering, like, we're all in like high school, middle school right now. Like, if you could go back to your high school, would you do anything differently in like your training process? And if you could, would you try another position?
Yes, Nora, great question. So, first question. If I could go back, would I do anything in my training process? 1, I would learn how to do basic power lifts my senior year of high school. So freshman, sophomore, junior year, I don't think you need to be doing Olympic lifts. It's not that big a deal. Body weight workouts, CrossFit if you like it, running, whatever you need to do to stay in shape is enough. But by your senior year, if you're planning on going to play in college, being able to do a squat properly, a hang snatch, a power clean, those Olympic lifts really help translate to your college career because a lot of lifting programs will incorporate those Olympic lifts. So I would do that. I would also learn how to be a hard worker. So one of my shortcomings and a little bit of my insecurities is I have a grind and a passion and a fire, but I don't always think I work that hard. I do enough to be successful, but I think I can push the bar even more. I think I can push even more so when I walk out of the gym every day, I'm exhausted and I know I gave every last drop. And some days I fall short of that. I don't always push myself. And I wish in high school I would have pushed to be even more, to really encapsulate that idea of what hard work means. Because I think I'm fighting with that now and what that looks like. And if I had perfected that in high school, of really grinding, of really pushing, of giving every last drop in my Haleigh Washington washcloth, I think it would be a great skill for me to have now. So I wish I would have pushed more, even more with hard work and then Olympic lifts. And then you asked if I could try any position, what position would I want to be? Dude, libero, hands down. If I perfect being a baller libero and just breaking the hearts of my enemies by digging up balls, I would love that. I think libero is the dopest position, and I am just so bad at defense, you guys, it's unreal. Like, it's horrible. So if I could go back, I would love to be a libero, especially like 6'4", rolling in. Everybody thinks I'm like the opposite or the middle. I throw on the bro jersey and just tear out their hearts. Oh, that would be the best.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Laura. Thanks for asking.
I love the fact that the 2 positions you want to play are just devastating. Libero, like, you can't stop me. And middle, yeah, I'm just going to beat you. So either way, you're just dominating the game. We've had another question come in. Piper wants to know, actually, I'll let Piper ask the question. Piper, would you mind unmuting yourself?
Yeah, I was just wondering if there's anything to like get you game ready.
Yeah, Piper, super good question. So for my whole career, my pre-game routine has kind of evolved. So in college, I used to think I would have to be super focused. So I would listen to really calming music, which I am not a very calm person, so I don't know why I thought that was a good idea, but I did it. Thought it would help me like really be focused and locked in, and I'd listen to this calming music, and I'd really think about the scouting report, and I would go into the game. And it was horrible, because it always made my start really slow. Like I would think that I was really locked in and just kind of leading into the game, but I was actually just kind of sluggish and slow and not there. So now as I have gone professionally, and I've played with Team USA, I have realized the best pregame routine that works for me is, yes, still listening to music, but this time, it's goofy, lighthearted music. I actually really love line dances, so like the cha-cha slide and like the Cupid shit. Like I love listening to those because I will do them in my cubby. Like you'll see me in my cubby being like, it's electric, boogie woogie. Like I'll be dancing because it helps me get loose and have fun and be relaxed. Because I go into the game and I play my best volleyball when I'm having a good time and when I'm fun and goofy. Now I also have to make sure that I am still focused for the match and not too loose, and not on the court about to serve singing the electric slide. I have to be locked in and focused. But those fun, lighthearted ways that keep my energy up and loose has been huge. And so, yeah, that's kind of my new pregame routine, the electric slide. Okay, not exactly the electric slide, but lighthearted music that helps me dance. Thank you for asking.
Awesome. All right, we have one more question, and this is from our very own Coach Matt.
Hi, how are you doing? I've been waiting for a Penn State player to ask, what exactly is Russ Rose writing in that blue book all the time?
I love this question. I don't know what about that notebook is such an enigma, but everyone asks this question. Fans, boosters, media, journalists, the amount of journalists and ESPN people that have contacted me and been like, what is he writing? I love this question. It's my favorite. Because you know why it's my favorite? The answer is so heartbreaking. He's writing down everything I did wrong. That I have done wrong in that match goes in that book. It doesn't matter if I hit 500% and had 8 blocks. He'll write down Haleigh netted at 14-12. Haleigh said a cuss word a little bit too loud and everybody saw it at 18-17. He writes down every error. And he makes sure that you know about it. He will, at the end of the match, we'll go and sit down. And we just like, he'll be like, oh, by the way, Kat, you ended up missing 3 serves that match. Really good job. He'll be like, what are you doing? Why are you like? He uses this notebook to just rip us to shreds. But I admire it because he demands perfection in that way. If he were to just look at the positives and the 500 hitting percentage, it wouldn't make us better. But if he's looking at those 5, 6, 7, God forbid, errors during a match, he's making us better because he's not letting that happen. We used to have a goal of only having 2 errors a set. So if we had a 3-set match, about 6 errors in a whole match, which is an unreal level of play. Because like volleyball is a game of errors. That's how it goes. And so that was our standard that we were held to. And he would write down those errors. And he'd be like, guys, we had 20 errors that match. That's too high. We have to be better. We have to be cleaner. And then he would hold us accountable in practice. And so that little notebook haunts me to this day. It's got every error I've ever committed in my whole life. And if you know Russ, he's a hoarder. So it's somewhere in his house. So every error is locked away in Russ Rose's home. And then he comes back and laughs at me. Jerk.
Oh, that's great. I'm sure.
Thank you, Matt.
Matt has been dying to ask that question. He's a huge volleyball fan and like one of our most analytical coaches. So I'm sure finding out that the notebook is just filled with small little details of the game, I'm not sure if it broke his heart or satisfied his curiosity.
Oh no, it's satisfying. Garrett and I may or may not have plotted to potentially like road trip to Penn State and try and do a little office caper and find out what was inside.
I was not. I never agreed to this plan. I told there was a
Cat
plan.
with us, so we would have a tall female player with us, so we wouldn't be suspicious.
I didn't even know about this plan.
Well,
And you were in it.
I was gonna tell you. We could talk about it later.
All right, Haleigh, I think that's the end of our questions, but I do have one request. So throughout our time on our AMP Live sessions and our team meetings, we've had little goals or little activities that we've done. This week, we really worked on confidence and making confident statements. This stems from our meeting with Carly Lloyd last week, where she really advocated for being confident and not being abashed by that confidence. So our activity actually asked our athletes to think about an I am statement where they mention that they are amazing at something. And I was hoping that maybe you could inspire our athletes by making an I am statement for us about an aspect of your game that you know that you're really good at, that you know is elite, that you know is like a part of your game that no one can take away. So I was just wondering if you feel comfortable sharing an I am statement for us.
Yeah, for sure. And it's actually so funny that you bring that up because I actually meditate a lot. Okay, not a lot. I meditate for about 5 minutes, 10 minutes every day. And one of the things that I focus on when I meditate is I am. And so my I am statement isn't actually like an I am a dominant blocker or I am unstoppable or I am above the rest. It's not anything like that. My I am statement literally just is I am, period. That encompasses everything that I strive to be because I am all that I need to be. I am a dominant blocker. I am a good hitter. I am the best dang server on the court. I am. And so sometimes I would fall short. Like I'd have a really bad practice. And so I couldn't think of anything like that I am. I'd be like, I am a terrible server. I am always making mistakes. And so it would sometimes become these negatives. And so just focus on my I am, acknowledges my weaknesses and my negatives. I had a bad practice, it happens, but it also acknowledges my positives and my light, and it kind of combines it all into one. So I know it's kind of a cheat sheet and it's one of those stupid loopholes, like that kid that's like, it's tomorrow at like 12 a.m. at a sleepover. Like it's one of those kind of things, like, go home. I get it. But it is, and that's how I focus on being my perfect self is I am, and that's it, because I am my perfect me.
Gotcha. The rest.
Lame. Yeah.
No. I like the recognition of the positive, the negative, and all that falls in between, because it is powerful to kind of have that ability to step back when your game isn't there and recognize that you still are that amazing blocker. Maybe today was just not the day.
Yeah.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, let's give it up for Haleigh. This is an awesome session. Unmute yourself. Give it up for her.
Yeah, Haleigh.